Welcome to the Headley Highlight Show's Royal Corner. This week in the Royal Corner, the sad life of Virginia Giuffre. Also in the Headley Highlight Show's Royal Corner, Prince Andrew, brother of the King, pal of paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, linked to Doug Barrowman, millionaire Baron, who profited off Covid contracts in oily relationship over pitch at Palace. Also in the Headley Highlight Show's Royal Corner, Sophie Chanduka's looking like Billy No Mates, Prince Harry and the verdict over security and the Diana Award, UK media caught in PR lie as green-eyed king-in-waiting Prince William and boo-boo kitty lazy Katie went off on another jolly, and then the article was pulled because it said they were having another freebie. King Charles flexes his muscles over official duties for the green-eyed king and lazy Katie. Duchess of Sussex does her first podcast interview. And finally, it's going to be a long one this week, people. Contenders for Sycophants of the Week writes stomach-churning articles about the crowds cheering and Kate's new hair. All this and more on the Headley Highlight Show's Royal Corner. Before I jump into the Royal Corner this week, I wish to say thank you so much to everyone who's been listening to my content. I absolutely love posting the videos and reading the comments. I am here for the comments. They bring me absolute joy. And it's something I'm going to do in the future. I'm going to have a section just for the comments. In addition to that, let me just give you my quick preamble. The Royal Corner, the Headley Highlight Show's Royal Corner, is a feature of my Friday night political talk show called The Headley Highlight Show, which airs every Friday, 8 p.m. on X, previously Twitter at 8 p.m. GMT, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. I am aiming to grow my channel, and so far this work is progressing with gusto. I now have 1,161 subscribers, people. Yes, it's it's marvelous. I'm aiming to get to 2,000, but before I get there, I need to get to 1,500. So if you can assist, please do so. Like, share, and comment. Tag a friend. Do a duet even. All promotions are so helpful. Jump over to my website, which is deniseheadley.com, where you can also make a donation for this authentic and fabulous content, darlings. There you may wish to buy me 3 wings and chips and a Miranda, or you may wish to extend further for rice, peas, chicken, or you may wish to say to me, Denise, you need to try the dishes of my country, which you haven't tried, and I will be extending this voucher for you with the location where you can go and try said meals. Also accept cryptocurrencies and fiat. So with no further ado, let's jump straight into the show. Now, my first royal story this week is going to be about the sad life of Virginia Giuffre. Virginia Giuffre, 41, died on Monday. And before I even get into this, there's no way I believe that she took her own life. That stinks so high, it's like sawfish when you left it in your bag and outside in the sunshine, and it's damp. Even before you get to the bag, the smell is lashing you in your face. 41-year-old Virginia Giuffre, mother of 3, died age 41, and it was reported that she died from suicide. In my opinion, Virginia Giuffre was a superhero, a superwoman, somebody who took on the establishment, the very, very powerful, and changed the face of accountability for all women. I'm going to play you an excerpt from Channel 4 News.
This was the late Virginia Giuffre holding a picture of herself at the age she was groomed to service the rich and the powerful. But this girl became the woman who raised her voice to expose the world's most notorious paedophile and sex trafficker, Jeffrey Epstein, a criminal at the heart of the transatlantic elite. Jeffrey Epstein partied with presidents. His friendship with Donald Trump is what had first drawn Virginia Giuffre into his orbit. As a teenager, Giuffre worked at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort. It was there she was recruited to work for Jeffrey Epstein by his accomplice, the socialite Ghislaine Maxwell.
Time in my life It was a really scary time in my life. I had just been abused by a member of a royal family. I didn't know what could happen. And I couldn't comprehend how on the highest levels of the government and powerful people were allowing this to happen, not only allowing it to happen, but participating in it. I had to keep it.
Teenager was hired as Epstein's masseuse, but Giuffre would allege that the pair trafficked her to have sex with Epstein and his associates.
I was so young. Ghislaine woke me up in the morning and said, "You're going to meet a prince today." I didn't know at that point that I was going to be trafficked to that prince. And then that night, Prince Andrew came to her house in London, and we went out to Club Tramp. Prince Andrew got me alcohol. It was in the VIP section. I'm pretty sure it was vodka. Prince Andrew was like, "Let's dance together." And I was like, okay. And we leave Club Tramp, and I hop in the car with Ghislaine and Giuffre, and Ghislaine said, "He's coming back to the house, and I want you to do for him what you do for Epstein."
Listening to all of that news footage and listening to her voice, I feel so angry and exercised that she has experienced what she's experienced. And this is the thing that why I said that she's a superhero, because she was a whistleblower. She opened up such a huge can of worms that to this day, not a single client has ever been charged or held accountable for these activities. Nobody. And now she's allegedly committed suicide. Human story about Virginia Giuffre is often missed. She was somebody who was preyed upon from a very young age. Then she was preyed upon again by predatory individuals like that woman who's in jail now, Ghislaine Maxwell, and her friend and colleague Epstein, a notorious paedophile. And when she spoke out, she was torn down. Her life was made a misery. And now at 41, she's passed away. In 2019, she put an Instagram post online saying that she's never going to commit suicide. And then suddenly out of the blue, she gets hit by a car. Sorry, it was a bus. And she posts 4 days later, "I'm going to die." And then we get all the stories about her being depressed and the framing of her as a woman who is struggling with mental health. She was struggling with mental health long before that, and she didn't off herself. My understanding is that she is also in a battle with her husband over the children, and she's experiencing parental alienation. And that can effectively give you a breakdown if you know anything about that. Many of the other things that make this story stink to high heaven is the death list. Virginia Giuffre is one of the latest. But there is a whole long list of people dead associated with Mr. Epstein. Everyone's either muted, Ghislaine's in jail, he's dead. Main and most vocal protagonist, Virginia Giuffre, is now conveniently unalived. But there's a long list of other people who are also unalived. Let me just give you these names. So in 2006, we had Rashina Koshevo. She apparently jumped from the 9th roof of her apartment building. She had flown in the Lolita Express. Let's not forget the story of Lolita for those who don't know it. Lolita was a minor, and an artist had her as a muse. And effectively, it's a story of paedophilia. Written very flowery, of course, but essentially it's predatory paedophilia on children. And his plane was entitled the Lolita Express. Yeah, she was 18. She was traumatized after several visits on the Lolita Express in 2006. Then add to that list Carolyn Andreno. She died in 2023 in her West Palm Beach, Florida, USA. She was found unresponsive in a hotel room, and allegedly it was called drug abuse. She had an overdose. She actually testified against Ghislaine Maxwell. Another unalived person is Sky Patrick, reported drug overdose. We don't have a date for that. We have Jean-Luc Borrell, 2022. He died in Paris. He was found in a jail cell whilst awaiting trial for rape. He was allegedly someone who used to scout for Epstein and Virginia. He's also been unalived. Then there was Detective Joseph Requeri, 2019, age 50, Palm Beach. He died suddenly while dealing with the investigation of the evidence And then I heard that one of his deputies actually fled to Russia. Can you believe that? He fled to Russia, a deputy, so that he didn't get unalived also. And finally, adding to that list, we have Virginia Giuffre, who died, recently in Australia, allegedly once again from an overdose. So in summation, I wanted to mark the passing of Virginia Giuffre in a way befitting to her standing and the things that she achieved for all women, but also for the fact that she was a trailblazer. I'm not saying she's not the first person. There's a line of them, but she was one that was very present in our eye line. She took grave risks. And she was also, I think there was a degree of abuse in her marriage. She was a woman who endured physical abuse, but she was not characterized by that because she was someone who was a fighter. She was courageous and fearless. And her legacy will not be forgotten because her voice physically and audibly in our ears is forgotten. So I'm going to use this part of my show to say, Virginia Giuffre, we salute you. We salute all of those women who stood and came forward and allowed themselves to be put at even further risk so that they were not going to allow their lives to only be characterized by abusive, predatory parasites. Also in the Headley highlight shows, Royal Corner. Prince Andrew, pal of convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, linked to Doug Barrowman, who profited off the COVID contracts in oily relationship over pitch at Palace. The BBC can reveal that Prince Andrew, the King's brother, in his startup initiative called Pitch at Palace Global, which was basically Dragon's Den, but their version of it, was administered for 2 years by Knox House Trustees. Knox House Trustees is a company that is controlled by Doug Barrowman. Doug Barrowman and his wife, Baroness, don't forget they have to anoint these people, Michelle Mone, they face scrutiny for lying about their ties to the PPE Madeiro, a firm awarded for government contracts during the pandemic. Now, let me just break this down for you people, okay? What happened was during the COVID crisis, there was a fast track contract route into government for people who could provide PPE. And Michelle Mone and her husband rinsed it out, okay? And because they're all BT Option 1 friends and family in the government, don't forget my girl sits in the House of Lords. You don't just get anointed there. You know what I'm saying? Someone's got to nominate you. They all sit there. They're all friends together. And what they did is they basically defrauded the British public. And so many companies did that. So what it turns out now is that Prince Andrew, okay, the same one who was friends with Jeffrey Epstein, we were just talking about that one there, Doug Barrowman has nominee ownership over the royal financial practices regarding Pitch at Palace. It remains under Andrew's control and legal ownership, but it was transferred to Knox House in 2021. So is this the reason why he's able to afford the lodge that the king's trying to kick him out of? Because let's face it, he's never done a day's work in his life. I mean, allegedly he was a trade envoy. I'm not sure what goods he was trading while he was over there being friends with Jeffrey Epstein. Don't forget the other day, he was linked to Yang Tambo, allegedly a Chinese spy, who was also involved in Pitch at Palace. So in summation to this particular story, and the one at the beginning, Prince Andrew is an oleaginous, meaning oily, smarmy and fawning, individual, and in my opinion, has zero moral compass. And he serves no public use whatsoever. Moving along swiftly, darlings. Sophie Chanduka's looking like Billy No Mates this week. According to my research, Sophie Chanduka is now falling very short of support on the trustee board. Dr. Margaret resigned 2 weeks ago, and it only leaves her and 2 other trustees. I don't even think there are quorate, basically enough people to attend a meeting for them to decide anything. According to the article, Dr. Margaret resigned 2 weeks ago and Narissa Nandu resigned on the 14th of April. And as far as I'm concerned, this is further evidence that Sophie Chanduka is not right for Centre Barley and that she only came there with, in my opinion, negative ambitions in mind. And when she couldn't work it how she wanted, because in my opinion, she is an agent of the Green-Eyed King, she then started to create all of this confusion and cankerland, which I mentioned in previous headspaces. But what's clear to me is that we have to wait for the outcome of the Charity Commission's deliberations. And another thing, you know, it's all good to have lots of experience, but you also need wisdom in life, okay? And my mum always said to me, you mustn't wish bad on people. You know why? Because it comes back to you tenfold. When you're digging a hole for somebody, you must always dig 2 holes, she says. One for the person you're trying to dig it for, and one for yourself to fall into. Moving along swiftly, darlings, in the Headley Highlight Show's Royal Corner. Harry awaits verdict from the Supreme Court and is also at the Diana Award. On Friday, today, I haven't heard it yet, but this is my understanding, Harry will be told, or the judges who are deliberating in his case from 2020 in relation to the removal of his security protection, are going to rule on whether or not they acted correctly. In his legal battle, it stems from the 2020 Ravick Committee, who revoked his automatic police protection after he stepped down from being a working royal. And don't forget, people, who sits on Ravick. There's 2 representatives, one from the king and one from the king in waiting, the green-eyed king, you know, the lazy one, yeah, him. And they decided to take it away from their brother. These are the people we have to look up to. It was a choice, yeah? They chose not to protect their own brother, his wife and his family. So we should hear the outcome of that. But what I think is interesting is that while they're doing that, Prince Harry he's been at this event called the Diana Award, and that award pledges to invest in young people's leadership. And there were people there such as the AI expert Sadiqa Khan and humanitarian Christiana Williams. And to me, while they're doing that, I think it's interesting juxtaposition that Harry is still working on the positive legacy of his mother, while his father, the embittered king who looks not too good these days because your mind is too bad-minded, yeah, and it shows all over your face, they are still trying to make Harry and his wife's life and their children's life actively in danger. Let that sink in, people. Also in the Headley Highlight Show's Royal Corner this week, UK media caught in a lie over the green-eyed king in waiting and his indolent, lazy wife, Boo Boo Kitty, Lazy Katie, in relation to their free jolly again to the island of Mull. What happened with this story was that when the story was broke, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually nominate the Joanna Riley as Sycophant of the Week, one of the Sycophants of the Week, because the story's been pulled, okay? When this story first broke, it was entitled that they are going on holiday. And they were celebrating their anniversary. But because people are noticing just how lazy they are, okay, him and his wife, as I said, that whole thing is fake, yeah? That marriage is fake. It's just about the trips, the money, the clothes, the tiaras, and the freeness. That's what they're on, okay? So you had this article come out saying they're going on a holiday, and then it was pulled. And another article came in its place saying it was being done as part of their royal duties. So let me just play the creator so that you can see that how the British media and the establishment work hand in hand to portray a false image of the firm. The creator is on TikTok. He's called Ministry of Hacks. There was also another article in relation to the king having to force William to go to the Pope's funeral because he was going to miss the football. They don't want to do any work, you know. Listen to Ministry of Hacks.
Happy Sunday. The Royalists and the Kate and Will's fan club are going to be bitterly disappointed because guess what? I found the article. The article that all the Royalists in my comments said was a figment of my imagination and was not true. Kate and William's next trip is a holiday. It came in the official brief from Kensington Palace. Daily Mail have reprinted it exactly. I had to trawl through the archives for quite some time to find this article, so there you go. I didn't dream it, I didn't imagine it. Yet more proof that Kate and William are the laziest hypocrites to ever walk this planet. They work little and they take a lot, and they feel free on their pedestal made of matchsticks, because believe me, that pedestal's going to fall over. They feel free to brief the press and criticise Meghan and Harry, who are work, actually earn their own living and are shining a light on the most important things that society needs to talk about.
Thank God for independent media, because without it, we would just be living in a stupefaction of a liquefied brain, allowing ourselves to effectively be putrefied mentally by the narrative of fakery. Right. Let me jump over to this week's contenders for Sycophants of the Week. This week's contention for Sycophants of the Week goes to an outlet. Yes, darlings, unsurprisingly, Sky is coming in this week for the podium position. Why? Because Sky News, allegedly unnamed, has written an article talking about how crowds are cheering William and Kate on their wedding anniversary visit to Mull. According to the article, more than 200 tourists and local residents lined Tornaby's main street in celebration of the royal couple's arrival. Every last one of them were extras. They were paid, or they were AI generated, or superimposed from previous visits by other more important dignitaries, in my opinion. The Prince and Princess of Wales have been warmly welcomed to Scotland as they celebrate their 14th wedding anniversary, according to the article. William and Kate were greeted by cheering crowds when they arrived at the Isle of Mull on Tuesday. The couple's 2-day visit is aimed at celebrating remote communities and the environment. Notice in this article, we're not being told what they're eating, because last week they were enjoying a cosy meal for two and meeting with the serfs and the little people. But Sky's taking a slightly different framing, yes. They began by visiting Arras Hall in the coastal town of Tornabay, where the popular TV series Ballymorey was filmed. There you can see Kate walking in a brown tweed jacket and Prince William wearing a grey checked jacket, grinning fiercely at the camera. The article shows Kate with all of the local folks, absolutely basking in glory of being so close to their proximity of wondrousness, but at no point questions as to the reasons why they're having another free jolly at the public expense. And to sum it off, Sky then compounds this legendary sycophantery, I like that word, I just made it up, legendary sycophantery, by writing another article about Kate's new hair. So first the crowds are cheering, woo! And now they're cheering the royal new hair. I couldn't find the other article, so I've gone for something else. And just out of the blue, I have been blessed by Catherine Mazhallahan. I think that's how I pronounce her name. Mazhallahan. Forgive me if I butchered it, from Glamour magazine. And she writes about Kate's new anniversary hair. On an anniversary trip to Scotland with Prince William, she writes, on the 30th of April, Kate Middleton surprised us by debuting her new hair, yes. Celebrating her 14th anniversary, the new hair shade was a lighter brown. But she was no longer a darker brunette. No. She then goes on to tell us it's a trendy new colour. It's brunette and blonde. And the queen in waiting, the lazy one, Lazy Katie, she is a perfect personification of this new style trend. And for that ridiculously stupid article, Catherine Mazhallahan of Glamour magazine and Sky, they get Sycophants of the Week. Well done, darlings. Thank you for writing all these puff articles. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. To Catherine and Sky this week, Sycophants of the Week. And finally, in the Headley Highlight Show's Royal Corner, and I'm going to have to round this one up because it is really going on long, Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, sat down and did her first interview. And she had no makeup on. She was really relaxed. And she was talking to Jamie Kean Lima. And it's her first interview, doing a solo interview on her own. And what was really interesting in this interview is that they just sat on sofas and they were relaxed and chilled. And I thought to myself, there's absolutely no way you could ever see anyone in the firm doing that. Just rocking up in your whole self and allowing that to be seen. Right. That's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this week's Headley Highlight Show's Raw Corner. In summation, we had a tribute to Virginia Giuffre and her courageous life. I also referenced the relationship between Prince Andrew and another oily baron rinsing out the public purse, Doug Barrowman. I also looked at the fact that Sophie Chanduka is totally Billy No Mates, as everybody now is leaving her because she's only got her as the chair and 2 other trustees. They can't even hold a meeting because they're not even quorate. I jumped all over the Supreme Court verdict for Harry and the fact that he was at the Diana Award and that he's also, always doing something positive, unlike his brother, who went to the Pope's funeral. And let's face it, what was the point of that? Did anyone even see you? If that's your exercise as head of state, please, you know what? You need to get retrained. Do something else. Day release, Job Centre Plus, do something. Get some training, please. Then I brought to you the fact that the UK media was caught in a lie because basically they told you it was a jolly. And when people started saying how many holidays are they having, Boo Boo Kitty, Lazy Katie, and him, the green-eyed king in waiting, when people started to complain, they pulled the article and they changed the narrative. So you're always being duped, people. Yeah, look out for brain liquefaction when it comes to the corporate and legacy media. Don't allow yourself for your brain to be liquefied with foolishness. Oh yeah, then I jumped all over the fact that the king had to tell him and his wife, get off your proverbials and go and do some work. Then we had the Sycophants for the week. That was Sky and Natalie Mahazilin from Glamour magazine. There you go, people. This is for you. Sycophants, we really, really appreciate you, and I will be highlighting you and dragging you accordingly. I see it as a public duty. And finally, there was Meghan's podcast, which was a really good news story, and I ended on that. So I hope you enjoyed it. It's a bit long this week. You might have to break out the tea and a slice of cake and take it in small chunks. Don't forget to jump over to my YouTube channel, subscribe, make a donation at denisehedley.com, free wings and chips and a Miranda, and come back next week. Or jump onto the live show, 8 p.m. GMT on X. Thank you for your listening ear and your positive contributions. And cut!